The story of the palm grove. On the first night, the old man grilled a lamb and placed a basket of dates on the table to entertain Borom in the grove. Borom, who savored the sweetness of the palm dates, felt refreshed. Manija, the eldest daughter of the old man, began the story of the first night by saying, "Under the blue dome, there was no one but God. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom situated between the sea and the mountains. The king of this realm valued knowledge greatly, and always had scholars in his court to gain wisdom from. This king had 3 sons who excelled in both knowledge and the art of swordsmanship, making them stand out in their era. One day, the king pondered to himself, what will happen to my legacy when I am gone? How will my 3 sons handle it? With this in mind, he decided to test them. Secretly, he summoned his first son and said, "You are aware of my old age and the pain in my bones. The opportunity to rule will be yours. It is better for me to step down from the throne of the kingdom and pass on the power to you. In these final days, I should dedicate myself to the worship of God, while you should assist the weak, show tolerance to the wealthy, and safeguard the flock from predators. In essence, you should manage the affairs of governance." The wise son, however, was not swayed by his father's words and replied, "May the king's rule endure as long as you live. How could I be deserving of the throne? I hope your presence will last, because how can an ant take Solomon's kingdom?" When the king saw that his son came out of this test with pride, he blessed him 100,000 times in his heart. But he angered him outwardly and said, "Leave me alone." Then he called the second son, and whispered the same seductive words in the second son's ear. But this wise son also answered like this, "Obedience to the king is obligatory on us. I never want the world after you. How can we think of taking over your territory while you are alive? Although it is God's decree that all of us must leave this mortal world one day, the elder son is preferable to me and he deserves to be trusted to replace you." The king realized again that his second son is also smart and succeeded in this test, so he was happy. But apparently he got angry with the second son and asked him to leave him alone. Then he tested the third son like he did with the previous 2 sons. The third son also responded, "Dear father, in the presence of you and my 2 elder brothers, where do I stand to deserve the kingdom?" The king's heart was filled with joy at the answers of these 3 sons, realizing their wisdom in distinguishing between the gem and the garbage, and not being deceived by the fleeting nature of the world. He thanked God for blessing him with such wise sons. Reflecting on the situation, he thought it would be beneficial for these 3 sons to travel beyond the borders of his kingdom to gain more experiences, strengthen their bonds, and be like the links of a chain connected to each other, ensuring their unity remains unbreakable. After that, he called his 3 sons and said, "You should pack your travel bags tomorrow morning and go on a trip to gain experience." So, all 3 sons obeyed their father's order and prepared their travel materials. In the morning, as the sun shone on their father's land, they set off. Along the way, they encountered prosperous and ruined cities and villages, neither hurrying nor moving lazily. One day, they arrived at a city where a man ran past them. He suddenly stopped and asked, "You 3 young and handsome boys, did you happen to see a camel on the way you came?" One of the 3 boys spoke up and described what he had not seen, asking the man, "Was this camel you are talking about blind in one eye?" The man confirmed this. Another boy smiled and inquired, "Did this camel lose a tooth?" The man again confirmed this detail. The third boy asked, "Wasn't this camel lame in one leg?" The man acknowledged all 3 characteristics. The man then asked the boys to point him in the direction the camel had fled. The boys confidently replied, "Continue on the same path you are going, you will surely find him." The man started running after his camel, and the 3 boys continued on their way until they reached a water spring. They washed their hands and faces to refresh themselves and then rested under the shade of a tree with full branches. It didn't take long for the camel man to catch up with them. He explained that he had run a league in search of his camel and crossed the mountain pass, but couldn't find it. The three boys, seeing the desperation of the camel man, asked him if the camel was loaded with syrup. The man confirmed that it was. The second son suggested that a woman was riding the camel, and the third son added that she appeared to be pregnant. The camel man listened to the brothers' words with surprise, as he was unaware of their intentions. His doubt grew as he pondered the accuracy of their descriptions, suspecting that they might have stolen the lost camel, and were unwilling to return it.so he screamed and said, "Come, people, these three are tricksters ambushing caravans to attack and steal their silver and gold." The more the three young men tried to calm the man, the louder the camel man's screams became, and he did not release his grip on them. After the commotion, a crowd gathered to see what was going on. They decided it was best to take the three young strangers to the king for judgment. If they were indeed thieves, they would be punished. The three boys were brought before the king by the camel man, who accused them of stealing his camel. The king then questioned the brothers, asking them to defend themselves in court. The brothers explained that they were travelers from a distant land and had unintentionally entered the king's territory. The man claimed that his camel was missing, and we randomly gave addresses that corresponded to this man's lost camel. The king responded by stating that if a randomly given address matched the camel, they would be correct. However, since all the signs matched the lost camel, the king found it impossible. Consequently, he decided to send them to prison until they confessed and returned the camel to its rightful owner. Otherwise, they would remain imprisoned until their hair turned the same color as their teeth. The three brothers were then sent to prison, feeling heavy-hearted and with chains on their hands, to spend the night in a cage alongside thieves and murderers. In the morning, when the yellow rays of the sun pierced through the black silk of the night, the camel man suddenly heard his camel's voice. He hurried to the courtyard of the house, opened the door, and saw his camel with a pregnant lady at the doorstep. A man stood next to the camel, greeted him, and explained, "Yesterday evening, while gathering thorns in the desert, I found this camel's reins stuck in a tree. The camel couldn't free itself, so I inquired from this lady about the situation. It was too dark to come here last night, but as soon as dawn broke, I got your address from her and brought the camel here." Realizing his mistake in wrongly accusing the three boys, the camel man quickly made his way to the king's palace to recount the story. The king was ashamed of his judgment and ordered the release of the three boys from prison to bring them to him. They removed the old clothes from the three boys, and the king dressed them in precious clothes. He then said, "I now believe what you three said. But you must tell me your trick. If you speak the truth, I will reward you well. If you lie, I will cut off your heads." The three sons revealed their secret and said, "May the king be safe. We noticed that the camel is blind in one eye because it only eats fruits from one side of the road, leaving the other side untouched. This led us to believe it is blind in one eye." The second son added, "I observed that the camel's track on the road indicated a lame leg, as it appeared to drag one foot." The third son explained, "I deduced that the camel does not have a tooth, because the chewed fruits and leaves showed half-chewed marks, indicating a missing tooth." The king said, "The first three things you mentioned are correct and logical. Now, tell me about the next three signs." One of the boys then revealed another mystery, saying, "While we were traveling through the desert, I noticed a hole in the camel's saddlebag from which liquid was dripping. A long line of ants was following the liquid. Wherever I see ants swarming, I know there must be something sweet that they are attracted to." Another boy added, that there was a lady riding the camel. When the camel knelt down, I noticed a woman's shoe print, confirming that a lady was indeed riding the camel. The third boy said, "In the same spot where I saw the lady's shoe print, I noticed the imprints of her hands on the ground. It seemed difficult for her to mount the camel, so she had to use her hands to help herself up. I deduced that she must be pregnant, as if she were carrying something fragile like glass or crystal." Impressed by their insightful answers, the king decided to invite the three young men to stay in the palace, so he could learn from them and benefit from their wisdom. He provided them with a house within the palace grounds to ensure their presence and continued interaction. One night, the king sent roast lamb and wine to the three brothers from the kitchen, and the king himself hid somewhere to secretly listen to the conversations of the three brothers. So all three brothers started drinking wine and eating lamb kebabs. After a while, each brother would share something from his knowledge with the others. The eldest brother spoke first and said, "This wine we are drinking tonight is not pure, it seems to have people's blood in it." The middle brother tasted some of the grilled meat and remarked, "It seems like this lamb was raised on a diet of dog blood. This food is not clean." But the third brother suddenly said something much more surprising than the words of the other two brothers. He said, "In my opinion, this king is not the real son of the previous king. I believe he is of different blood, and I am certain that his real father must be a cook." After these words from the younger brother, silence fell over the assembly. The king, who had been secretly listening to the three young men's conversation from behind the wall, couldn't contain himself any longer, and jumped out of the closet to join them. When the three brothers saw the king, they jumped up, bowed, and prepared for him to sit down. The king said, "The words you exchanged contained bitter truths. I must uncover the truth tomorrow morning to determine if your claims were valid." In the morning, the king ordered the wine seller to be brought to the palace, and asked him from which vineyard he got the wine. The wine seller replied, "There was an abandoned cemetery around the city that I bought cheaply and turned into a vineyard. This wine is from the grapes of that garden." The king was surprised by this answer and thought to himself, "Now that the first point has come true, 2 other points may also be true." Therefore, he summoned the shepherd and demanded to know the secret of the lamb. The shepherd explained, "This lamb grew up next to its mother and drank milk from her breast." The king, displeased with the shepherd's vague response, threatened to cut off his head if he did not tell the truth. Fearing for his life, the shepherd confessed, "When this lamb was born, its mother was eaten by wolves. I had a female dog who had recently given birth and was nursing her puppies. The lamb started drinking the dog's milk and grew up with her." The shepherd then revealed that he had given the lamb to the royal kitchen 2 days ago. Upon realizing that the second point was accurate, the king became concerned about the third mystery and feared that it might also be true. His legs trembled with anxiety. So he finally decided to go to his mother to find out the truth. He grabbed her by the neck and demanded, "Tell me the truth, who is my real father?" His mother, angered by his words, replied, "The shining sun is the only rival of the moon in the sky. Who else could be my equal but the king, your father?" However, her response only fueled the king's anger further, and he shouted, "No matter how many excuses you make, there is no escape from the truth. Confess to the sin you have committed, or your head will not remain on your body." His mother spoke more words to deceive her son, but those words were of no use, and the king was not convinced. So the king's mother saw that the moon does not always stay behind the clouds, and now the moment has come when she must confess her sin. So, while trembling with fear, she revealed the secret of her heart and said, "One day in the spring, the king had gone out for hunting. I was a young and beautiful woman. That afternoon, I was lying on the porch of the palace. The weather was lovely, and it was spring. So I decided to take a nap. The cook arrived with the food tray. Suddenly, feminine desire overcame me, and I clung to the cook like a drunken woman. The branch of the cook grafted onto my tree, and bore fruit like you." The king heard this secret from his mother. He blushed with embarrassment, bit his lips, and lowered his head, surprised by his fate and regretting why he was curious to know the truth. He then emerged from his mother's seraglio looking half dead, half alive. After that, he went to the house of those 3 brothers and told them, "I searched for those hidden secrets that I heard from you. Surprisingly, all 3 points you mentioned, all were correct. I am just amazed that all these secrets were hidden. How were they revealed to you before this? The older brother said, when I drank the wine, I felt that I was going to be sad, while wine should bring happiness, and at first I thought that this feeling only appeared in me. But when I saw that the others were sad like me from drinking that wine, I understood that this wine is not from red grapes, but from human blood. Another brother said, I like roast lamb very much. When I reached out and took the first bite, I felt nauseous and almost vomited. That lamb smelled like blood, and the taste of the lamb was like a dog. I said to myself, this is not a lamb, it is a dog, or it was raised with dog's milk. It was the turn of the third brother, and he said, if the king promises me that he will not kill me, I will reveal the truth. The king swore that no danger would threaten the third brother's life. So the third brother said, from the first moment I arrived in your presence, I was looking for the signs and attributes of the kingdom in you. But as time passed, I saw fewer signs of a king. Instead, your interests were more about stew and bread. You used to talk less about politics, the army and the treasury, but instead, you talked about the quality of bread for hours. So I thought that your roots are not to the throne, but to the bread dough. These signs, which were the attributes of the king, gave a bad testimony about the inheritance of the crown. The surprised king thought about his mood and interests, and did not say anything more. But after a while, he came to his senses and regained control of his anger and said, the shedding of innocent blood is far from justice. So it is better before anger overcomes patience, pack your load and leave this land. After the three brothers packed their bags and got ready to leave, the king said to them, well done, wise men. I have learned many lessons from you, my friends. Being with you has been very profitable, and has added to my skills. However, it is not permissible to keep the travelers here any longer. He then gave each of them 100 gold dinars, and all three brothers happily departed for their father's land. When the father saw his sons again, he was overjoyed, and his heart felt young once more. Bahram, impressed by the story, praised Manager. As the night reached its midpoint and the moon ascended to the middle of the sky, Bahram, tired from hunting, fell asleep.